plane, they come in. You know, we only learned that like less than a year ago. They said, we're going to start closing up the border a little bit. Well, all they have to do, she could walk into the White House, say, wake Biden up. I want him to sign something. And all he has to do is say, close the border. He doesn't need a bill. The bill was so horrible. You know, he says, Donald Trump called the Senate, said, don't pass it. It's wonderful. I wish I could do that, okay? It's not that easy. But the truth is, I had nothing to do with it, and I would be proud to do it because it was such a bad bill. But he doesn't need a bill. I didn't have a bill. I closed the border. I had the safest border. You see it. I had the safest border in the history of our country. We now have the worst border in the history of the world, maybe in the history of the world. And again, it's the #1 thing to campaign on. I mean, I think the inflation is horrible. The economy, everything. We have a lot of bad things. The when you see those killers, those guys that have military-style weapons. I mean, people are saying, where the hell do people coming out of Venezuela, young thugs that are tough as hell, by the way, where do they get this equipment? But I think it's the #1 thing, and we're going to have it fixed. You know, I fixed it in 2016. I fixed it. I did it so good, I couldn't talk about it for the next election. My people said, sir, they don't want to hear about the border. I said, what do you mean you don't want to hear? I did such a great job. I fixed it. We had the best border. But that border was 5% of what it is now. That border was bad. It was really bad, but it wasn't very tough for me to fix. That border was nothing compared to the mess you have now. We don't have a border. And I built hundreds of miles of wall. I built much more than I said I was going to build. Then we added 200, and they didn't want to put up the slats. And you know what they did? Many of them were sold for 5 cents on the dollar. It's just so sold. I will outlaw sanctuary cities immediately, and I will ban all welfare and federal benefits for illegals. We are running against the most radical, most incompetent, most unfit vice president running for president. Can you believe it? In the history of our country, she's totally unfit for office. No one respects her. No one trusts her. No one takes her seriously, and something is clearly wrong with her. Something is wrong with her. Something's wrong with her, and something's wrong with this vice president. He is off. She can't put 2 sentences together. How about 60 Minutes? Was that the greatest? You know, we're probably going to sue him just for the hell of it. Listen. 60 Minutes, she interviews. She was so bad. She gave an answer. This never happened to me. Why does it happen? She gave an answer that was so bad that they changed it. They took it out, threw it out. They didn't like edit a little bit, take a word out. No. They took the entire, it was a long, stupid, she didn't know where the hell she was going. Does she drink? Is she on drugs? I don't know. I have no idea. She writes 60 Minutes, you know, big 60 Minutes CBS. You know, they have to be licensed by the federal government. They should take their license away. What they did, CBS, and they're all bad. How about David Muir? How bad is he? How bad is he? I said, crime is going up. And he said, no, it's not. It's going down. I said, it's going up. He said, crime is going down. Next question. The next day, they released the numbers. Crime's up 45% in our country. I don't watch him anymore. Pretty boy, little pretty boy he is. So they think it. She gives this horrible answer. They take every word of it and they throw it away and they insert another answer. That's called election interference, and it's called fraud. And they should have their life. And you know, all the other guys back there are sticking up for him. You know why? Because they do the same thing probably. They don't do it for me. You know what they do with me? They make my answer worse. They write. No, they take out, like if I give, because I do the weave. You know the weave? I'll tell a story and I'll go from here being, it's actually genius, I have to say. And fair and smart people say it's total genius. But they say, oh, he wandered. I didn't wander. Wander is when you don't get back to the same point. No, I give the weave. They don't do anything for me. What they do with me is I give a beautiful paragraph, and they'll take some of the primary sentences out. And that's terrible to do. But that you can sort of get away with. You know, I can even understand it. They want to make it a little shorter. They want a little more time. You know, they don't pay anything for their license. They have a license that's worth billions of dollars. They don't pay anything. Neither does NBC fake news. And ABC fake news is really one of the worst, I will tell you. ABC, but this is CBS. They don't pay for, they use our airwaves. They don't pay anything. And then you hear that 60 Minutes, which is a news show, it's under their news division, so they're not allowed. This isn't an entertainment show. But they took the sentence, not the sentence, they took a whole paragraph, big paragraph, just word after word. That was like the 32 that I listened to, you know, 32, with the teleprompter where she basically choked and froze like a dog. But that was like the 32. They took it out and they inserted a new answer that was more rational. Wasn't great, but it was, at least you don't say, what's wrong with this person? Where did you ever hear them doing that? That's called election. This is an election. We're in the middle of an election. She gave a horrible answer on a news show that pays nothing for the airwaves that are worth billions of dollars. And the other networks stick up because they don't want it to happen to them either. They don't want to see a bidding contest for who's going to do the news. But there has to be some kind of justice in this country. You can't take her answer out, insert a new answer, and say, this is called major election interference fraud. So we'll see what happens. I actually think it's the biggest scandal in broadcast history. I really believe that. I think it's the biggest scandal. Nobody's seen anything like it. And people are furious about it. And they all come out with some answer. Well, we did this because of that. And that. No, they took the answer out. They put a new answer in. There's nothing. There's no justification. So we're probably going to take them to court. Should I take them to court? Okay. So we've asked them. We sent them a letter yesterday. We've asked for the entire transcript. And we want to see, did they do it in other places too? And we'll see what happens, but good. So I have your permission, right? Who would think of these things? I mean, who would think? And it was a mistake. They made a mistake. That's how everybody found them. They made a mistake. They put out the original answer. Somehow somebody saw the original answer, said, that's not the answer she gave. And when they went back, they feel it was, you know, they found out it was a fraud. It was a fraud on the American public, and they should pay a big price for it. And if they do pay a big price, it won't happen anymore. She's an international joke, and she's going to end up getting us into World War III, and Kamala is in free fall. You know, she's in free fall with Arab and Muslim voters. Now, in Michigan, did you notice that my poll numbers are very good with the Arab voters? Did you see that? My poll numbers are very good. I appreciate it. You know why? You know why they're? Because I want peace in the Middle East. I want peace. I did the Abraham Accords. I want peace in the Middle East. So it's very simple. It's not, I want to see peace in the Middle East. But my poll numbers in Michigan are very good with, they were supposed to, I was supposed to be 0, she was supposed to be 100. Now I'm beating her because they see how bad she is. But they don't like or respect her. She's sent their overseas, I mean, you take a look. She's sent their jobs overseas. She's brought in crime to the cities. She's taken in all of this tremendous fire. She's okay with it that took place in the Middle East. But you ask yourself, why would Muslims support Lion Kamala Harris when she embraces Muslim-hating and very dumb person, Liz Cheney, a dumb person, who, by the way, lost for Congress in the biggest margin in the history of politics. She lost by almost 40 points. The reason she has that honor is that most people wouldn't have stayed in. A congressperson that's in that position normally retires before the election, which would have been a good idea for her to do. But Liz Cheney's a total loser. But her father brought years of war and death to the Middle East. He killed many Arabs, many Arabs and Muslims. And now Lion Kamala has embraced Liz Cheney. She embraced her. And why would a Muslim or why would an Arab want to vote for somebody that has Liz Cheney as her hero? Liz Cheney is a totally failed politician. Again, she set the worst record. I think it's a terrible mistake that she's made. I think it's a great insult to Muslims all over the world, and I think that she's going to do very bad in Michigan. I really do. I think she's going to do very badly. To do that was a bad thing, and I was very surprised to see it. But in one way, I was happy, because you have to understand, I'm competing against her. I'm competing against this stupid person. I think we are winning by a lot. I have a feeling we're winning by a lot. But this person cannot be president. By the way, is there any place better to be than a Trump rally? And don't get used to this, because it's only going to go on for another 2 weeks, isn't it? It's really something. It's only going to go on in 4 years, you'll be having rallies of 100 people, 200 people. Mr. Wall will be doing other things. Front row Joes are going to be doing, oh, these guys are boring as hell. We got two more weeks together with our big, we had 101,000 people in Butler. Think of that. We had 107,000 people in New Jersey. We're making a move for New Jersey, too. And 2 weeks ago in California, we had 109,000 people. So don't get too used to this. What are you going to do, Mr. Wall, when you come to a rally and there's like 150 people? What are you going to do? Oh. You like, right? That's very good. That's good. Good man, I'll tell you that. When the people of North Carolina were stranded and drowning in Hurricane Helene, Kamala Harris was at a glitzy fundraiser in the city that she destroyed, San Francisco. She spent the last 4 years taking your money to provide shelter and benefits to illegal aliens, but when North Carolina needed help, Kamala Harris was nowhere to be found. They spent your money. They're going to probably have to call an emergency meeting, a special session of Congress, because the illegal migrants, many of them killers, many of them drug dealers, many of them released from prison, have taken the money that they were supposed to spend in North Carolina and Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee and Florida and South Carolina. The money was supposed to be spent in those states, and they don't have the money now. They don't have the money because they've spent think of it, hundreds of millions of dollars they've spent flying migrants into states all over the country and letting them go through your porous wall. Kamala Harris does not have the compassion, the smarts, or the strength to be president of the United States. She can't do the job. She's not mentally or physically able to do the job. And on top of all of it, she says she would not do anything differently. She would not do anything differently, she said, than crooked Joe Biden, which is disqualifying. When you see this tape, you're going to say she's disqualified. He's the worst president. 85% wrong direction. What would you do differently? Well, I can't think of anything now. Let's take a look.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
I stood there on the tarmac watching you check your watch.
The chaotic and deadly U.S. evacuation from Afghanistan stunned Americans and the world and cost the lives of 13 U.S. soldiers.
Would you have done something differently?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
More than 13,000 illegal immigrants convicted of murder have been caught at the border and then released into the United States.
An Afghan national is in custody today after being accused of plotting an election-day terrorist attack. The suspect entered the U.S. on special immigrant visa.
Background Jamie details the murder of Georgia nursing student Lady Riley. The illegal immigrant suspect, who cops say committed the heinous murder, is a Venezuelan national. crossed the unsecured southern border back in 2022. Two men investigators say are in the country illegally from Venezuela are charged with capital murder and the death of Jocelyn Nungaray.
A fifth illegal immigrant accused of attacking two New York City police officers over the weekend showed no remorse or regret.
Would you have done something differently?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Only 18% say the economy is in excellent or good condition.
US inflation has hit a new 40-year high, increasing by 9.1% over the financial year.
The cost of homes have spiked. Home buyers need to earn 80% more than they did in 2020 to afford a house.
Were you the last person in the room? Yes.
So, North Carolina, if you want to end this disaster, you must go out. Just go out and vote. We got to win this. We got to get this thing. We're pleased to be joined tonight by some really great people, and one of them I'm very proud of. He's done a great job as your senator, Ted Budd. Where is Ted? Ted. Thank you, Ted. You're doing a great job. He's doing a great job. Proud of you, Ted. Really good. Congresswoman Virginia Fox, a warrior. Thank you, Virginia. Thank you. Congressman Dan Bishop. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. A man who's been really fantastic. All I know is they had more people show up in the last 4 days than in 2016 or 2020. And many of these people lost their homes. They lost everything. And we had more people. We set a record. Can you believe that? That shows enthusiasm. That shows North Carolina GOP Chair Jason Simmons. Thank you, Jason. Great job. How are we doing, Jason? We're going to win the state big, I hope? 3 times in a row, right? Jason's great. A great friend of mine and really a friend of my boy, Don Addison McDowell. He's going to do a fantastic job. Thank you, Addison. Oh, you're looking better and better. Look at you. Looks like a real congressman. He's going to be fantastic. Somebody that I've got a lot of respect for. I have for a long time. From the day I met him, I respected him. He was a very successful businessman. He was a great senator. He's a very special guy. David Perdue. David? Thank you. Thank you, David. Thanks. One of the biggest and best developers around, a man who's made a lot of money, and he's very generous, including with North Carolina. He writes a check for everything. He's just a great person, a very generous man. Steve Witkoff. Steve, thank you for the help. Thank you. And Peter Navarro, I hope you heard from him. This guy is great. They say threat to democracy. They're a threat to democracy. Nobody would have done what they did to him. Nobody would have done what they did to Peter Navarro. He fought for our country so hard. I was witness to it for 4 years. That guy fought harder than anybody I know. And then they did what they did to him. They're a bunch of bad people. They weaponized the Justice Department. They weaponized the FBI. And I've had more investigations than any human being, including Alphonse Capone, the meanest, Scarface. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. They even raided my house, little place on the beach called Mar-a-Lago. No, but think of it, they raided my house. Can you believe this is the scum that we have to deal with? This is the scum. What they did to him and other of our friends and friends of the people in this room, it's a disgrace. And Peter, you're going to go down as a hero. You watch. You watch. Thank you. And we also have former Democrat Congresswoman and 2020 Democratic presidential candidate, a woman that everybody loves. I watched her years ago where she just had so much common sense. You know, we're the party of common sense. I like to say it because it's true. Like, we don't want men playing in women's sports. We want to have borders. We want to have fair elections. You know, little things like that, common sense, right? But she's here tonight, and I'm going to just ask her to come up and say a couple of words. Tulsi Gabbard.